Hi, Morag. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. You're my first official conversation of the day, so you're setting the tone,
Beautiful.
Elisha.
Man, I feel so blessed, I tell you. Well, thank you so very much, Morag, for being here. Like I mentioned before we started recording. And you see, Morag, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two main things, okay? And I do this all the time to the point where I think it has become an anthem because I say it always. So, firstly, Morag, I want to thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And you see, Morag, oftentimes I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months back, yeah, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it. Yeah, but you see, just recently, Morag, I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree is looking so beautiful because it's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And you see, not just mangoes, but ripe mangoes. It was a beautiful moment that day. I was so excited. You see, my point is the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request from me to be on the show. Because I was attracted to all of the beautiful things that you're doing, the impact your work is having, your philosophies, your insight. It is amazing. And I said to myself, I've got to have this amazing guest on the show. And I sent you the request, and that's going to lead to the second thanks. All right. So I want to thank you, Morag, for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. So thank you so very much. I truly appreciate you.
You are most welcome, especially as mangoes happen to be one of my favoritist fruits. So I love that
Beautiful. That's a
story.
good one. Thank you. So let's get started. You see, Murag, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Murag, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. Not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Morag on the show is for the sake of the listeners. You see, Morag, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, powerful, eye-opening, and good information. And I'm totally convinced, Morag, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. We are just so curious right now. We want to know how you got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Morag, over to you.
Okay. How did I get to where I am today? So, 3 strands. Originally born in the UK, had no idea that I might end up living or even working internationally, and grew up there and actually started my career in banking. So I love numbers. There is a poetry in math that I loved, in that as you work through any problem, there is, in theory, a right or a wrong answer. But when it came to banking, everybody thought the numbers was going to make them rich. And what I realized very early on, it's not just enough to have a great idea, like I'm going to sell coffee or make beautiful mugs. No, you've got to also focus on how business gets done. And that is all about the human element. the relationships that we have with our team, with our colleagues, with our customers, with our communities. So I moved from numbers into leadership and executive development. And that is what brought me to now living in Colorado and America. And I have had the opportunity to work with thousands of leaders from the northest part of the planet, North Slope, Alaska, down to Chile and Peru, across Europe and Asia Pacific. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter where you're living in the world. The biggest challenge is the friction that happens between people, the misunderstandings, sometimes intentional, mostly unintentional, that slow down information flow, slow down our ability to acquire knowledge, and therefore to develop the skills that can help ensure that we are better together. So that is what my passion is, how to create cultures of connection in a world of disconnection, one relationship and one conversation at a time.
Beautiful. How to create cultures of connection in a world of disconnection. I got that. And that's a great one because I feel like what you're doing is very, very important because that's like addressing the root of many problems. And that's a great one. So that's going to lead to the very first question. Let us talk about networking for a moment. So how can networking help us grow in our career? You got it?
Well, you may, yeah. How can networking help us grow in our career?
That's right.
How can it not? In my experience, work, life is the biggest team sport that any of us get to participate in. And therefore, each connection that we make in our network, whether it serves us today or not, is a potential connection that can open the door to success tomorrow. And so we should always be curious about those around us. We should be leaning into those relationships, not with a what can I get from you right now, but more about what can I give and how can we learn and grow together? Because whilst you and I, this may be the first time we've connected, a month from now, a year from now, maybe we walk into the same room or the same team. And better to do that with as acquaintances with this conversation in common than strangers with nothing in common. And so as I've worked with leaders around the world, forget that old adage of 6 degrees of separation, if you've ever heard that phrase. It's more like 2 degrees of connection. And so asking for what we want, leaning into relationships, networking is the secret to success.
The secret to success is networking. Oh boy. And that's very correct because I began to experience success in some areas of my life when I started networking and getting to meet people and sharing ideas together. And that's amazing. I got that. Okay. So how has the way we connect at work changed since the pandemic?
Well, it has changed, but I don't know that all of us have recognized that fact. So I'm grateful that you asked that question. Because here's the thing, the camera and the technology that we have, the ability to send phone calls, receive text messages in an instant, they only provide the illusion of connection. And think about it. If you've ever sat through a call, Elisha, going, oh my goodness, will this never end? Or maybe you faked perkied your way through it, all happy, happy, happy. And then you hang up at the end and you're like, that's the most ridiculous idea I've ever said. Then what you'll understand is that technology only gives us the illusion of connection. And so we need to be more thoughtful as individuals, as team members, to create the space for the small talk, to be curious about the work you may be doing, yes, but also checking in on how you're doing so that we can make those connections across time and distance.
Brilliant. That's a great one. So what is that one small thing that anyone can do tomorrow to improve workplace relationships?
Well, firstly, choose to go first. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, I haven't any friends at work or nobody cares about me, then rather than waiting for others who may not have listened to this conversation with Elisha and I, You have to choose to show that you care about others' success as much as you do your own. You need to share a little bit more about your life journey and what is exciting you, or the Mango Grove story that you shared at the beginning, which was so beautiful and eloquent in terms of positioning the difference between lightness and dark. And one way to do that is something that I've been doing with my team for nearly 10 years. And I can't believe that habit has been going on that long. But every time we have a team meeting, we start with something that we call ripples and joys. And it sounded really hokey when we first started. I was like, this is going to be daft. This will never work. And yet here I am 10 years later. It is something I look forward to every single week. So what is ripples and joys? It is the beginning of every meeting where everybody on the call gets just 1 or 2 minutes to share a ripple. So it might be something that they've done, a project, a client that we've helped, a piece of writing that we've done that's resonated for our audience. And then joy can be anything personal or professional that has literally made us smile, laugh, or brought us joy. So, for example, this conversation, your mango story, I love it so much. That is something I'm going to share with my team on Friday. So what can people do? Take a moment to pause. Take a moment to see and be seen by your colleagues and share your ripples and joys. And I guarantee that will strengthen your relationships and your network at work.
Beautiful. You see, getting to listen to you, I didn't understand very well why you're just so good at what you do. You see, you've got this incredible way of explaining things, and it is amazing. You see, making it very, very easy to understand.
Thank you.
I love it. Okay, we have just one more question to go. All right. So let us talk about toxic bosses. Okay. So what impact do toxic bosses and colleagues have on employees and companies? You got it?
Oh, what impact do toxic bosses have on their colleagues
Yeah.
and their companies? They are the worst. And it was interesting you should ask that question, Elisha, because I was talking to the CEO of a company only this week, and one of their direct reports is being seen as a bit of a toxic boss. And so the CEO is seeing whether I might be an executive coach who can help round out the edges and buff out the scuffs. And as I pointed out to the CEO, even on their best day, they're a brilliant jerk. But on the worst days, they're just a jerk. And what does that do? It means the rest of us are sitting there going, how come they get away with this behavior and I don't? I'm going to avoid being in a meeting with that colleague because it's not fun. They don't make my life or my work lighter. In fact, they make it heavier. They drain my energy. So in the short term, information slows down. In the short term, collaboration and teamwork starts to fester. And in the medium to long term, business success fails, and those delightful employees, your best employees, will choose to go somewhere else. So if you allow toxic behavior to continue, if you are a toxic colleague, your reputation, the team's performance, and the company performance will all suffer.
Very, very true. And that's so correct. And I hope they get to listen to these podcasts and have a change of mind and change of character. Okay. So to bring this to an end, Morag, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to, reach out to you, learn more about everything we've discussed, or even ask questions, how can that be possible?
Okay. Well, let me start with how can you find out more? Let's do that. So you can do what Elisha did, which is message me. I'm the one who responds. So connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me, Morag Barrett. You can follow our work at skyeteam.com, and that's SKYE team.com. And if you're interested in learning more about how you show up at work, whether colleagues might consider you a friend at work, then you can take our Ally Mindset profile at SkyTeam, SKYE, team.cloud/you, me, we. And then my final thought. You asked me right at the beginning, Elisha, about how important was our network in terms of our success. Well, if business is about relationships, success in life is about connection. And you build connection and you build a network, one conversation and one relationship at a time. This really does matter. So go out there, have the conversation and start nurturing your network.
Beautiful. I love that. That's a great one. So that's going to be the end of the show, Morag. Thank you for coming and thank you for educating us and making this conversation very insightful and interesting. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Elisha.